my name's Danielle Dempsey. I'm the author behind The White Picket Fence, and today I'm going to talk to you about what it was like to relive the memories in my memoir. So in order to write this book, I wanted to make sure that I was as accurate as possible, and I really wanted to focus on how I felt in those moments. And so in order to do that, what I had to do was I had to go back through my life and relive each and every one of those memories. So how I would do that is I would set aside time, usually when my husband was out of the house, or I could, steal off into a room by myself because he was going to be doing something else. I just made sure that I was alone. And so I would get alone and I'd get somewhere silent, somewhere that I felt safe, because that was really important for me to be able to unlock some of those scarier, some of those harder moments. I really had to feel like I was in a safe place. And so I would get in the right environment to do those things. And then I would close my eyes and I would just let my mind travel back. And I would let myself relive it a couple of times, walking myself through it. And then I would write. And after I would write the story, then I would have to go back and relive it again to make sure I didn't miss anything. And it was just a big repeat of this process several times. Honestly, for the first 2 years, that's all it was. First 2 years in the making of this book was just reliving all these traumatic events over and over and over. And then the last year, I got to kind of take a little bit of a break in just the editing portion. I mean, I still had to read about the events, but it's a lot easier to read with the mentality of editing in a strictly legal sense of writing, and less of that emotional, what I felt like when I was hiding in the bathroom from my grandfather and things like that. It was a little bit easier the last year as far as an emotional standpoint. Reliving those memories took a really big emotional toll on me. That's why I honestly believe it took so long for me to write. Now, I did not write consistently for the 3 years, and that's simply because I would write a really hard story, relive it a couple of times, and then I would just feel so emotionally drained. There were a couple of times when I would slip into some of those depressive behaviors, some of that anxiety, and all those things I felt when I was really going through the thick of it. And because I would slip into those really hard emotions, I would take off long periods of time in between writing each story. I honestly don't think I would have been able to write the book any faster. Maybe a little faster. Sometimes I did procrastinate. But usually I procrastinate because it was not fun. It was not fun to relive these memories. But I do believe it's something that I needed to do. I do believe it's something God wanted me to do so that I could share it with all of you. There would be days when my husband would come home and I would just be a puddle of tears and a complete mess. I mean, there would be days when I would remember something that I'd kind of let drift off a little bit, or in pursuit of making sure the book was accurate, I would be researching legal data to make sure I got certain aspects of the story right. And I remember there was one day that I came across a court document about one of the stories that I was writing, and I just began to weep, because it's one thing to relive what I knew of it, it's another to read the very emotionless ticks of, this is what happened in a legal document, in a court document. I remember just weeping for my father and my uncle, and just being so burdened with that hurt and sadness for them. And I was a mess for a couple days after I found that document. And I didn't write for quite a few days too. And that was when I was really in a good jive. I'd been writing a lot. I was pounding out the rest of the book. I was determined to get it done by the end of 2019. And even still, it hit me so hard that I couldn't even fathom writing another word. I was just so lost. And emotions and days like that happened fairly regularly while writing this story. And so I don't like to pat myself on the back, but I am proud of myself for, after each heart-wrenching story, for getting back up and writing the next one. And I couldn't have done that without God, honestly. I don't want any of this to be taken as something I did by myself, because there's no way. There's no way I would have been able to pick myself back up that many times without the help of God, reminding me what this is about and reminding me that He's always going to be there for me and that He is the healer and that He is my rock. Now that I've relived those memories, I feel like it's a little bit easier for me to discuss them. It's a little bit easier to kind of deal with the aftermath of those events because I've been able to get it down on paper, and there's a sort of distancing that happens when you're able to write down your worries and the troubles of your life down on paper. It's almost like the paper will hold it for you. So instead of having to carry it anymore, I could just let the paper take it on, like God take it on. And it didn't seem like a piece of baggage that I was responsible for anymore. I'll always be responsible for how it affects me and how I need to watch my decision making and watch how I react in the world because of those triggers, because of those traumas. But I didn't feel like I need to lug it around with me anymore. I feel like writing this book really helped me to just kind of separate and be able to say that this was my life then and I'm someone new now. And so I do think, even though the pain of reliving the memories was a lot and it took a lot out of me, and for the better portion of 2 years I was in and out of states of depression, I'm glad I did it. And I'm really excited that it's over. But I'm also really excited that I did it because it means that hopefully I can stand as a beacon of encouragement to you guys or anyone who reads the book, that they can know that you're never alone, that other people go through things too, and God will get us through it. I did want to address too, I didn't put every traumatic incident in this book. There were quite a few stories that I ended up leaving out, some things that I kept to myself, at least for this book. But the stories that are in Behind the White Picket Fence are stories that were crucial to who I became, and they were big life events. Now, like my cousin who read it before I'm publishing it did point out, she said that I watered them down a little bit. That's not to say that any of it isn't true. It's just to say that there were some portions that I decided to not go into as much of detail as I could have, simply because I know how hard it is for me to read and watch certain things if they're my triggers. And so I didn't want to go into so much detail that certain people wouldn't be able to read the book. I wanted to give just enough detail for you to realize and recognize what I went through and what I was feeling, but not so much that it would trigger you if it's something that you yourself have been through. So I just wanted to mention that before this video ended. Anyways, Behind the White Picket Fence, it's coming out November 20th of 2019, and if you have any comments, leave them below, or let me know any questions you might have. I plan on doing a few more of these videos, and I would love to address anything that you're curious about. I'll see you later.